Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in, Winning Cures Everything, and it is the Tuesday, May 31st edition of the show. I'm Gary.
I'm Chris.
And hopefully everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, we are doing this a day later than we usually do during the non-football season. We do Mondays and Thursdays, but this go round, it's a Tuesday, and we'll hit it again on Thursday. But Chris, I assume your Memorial Day went okay.
Oh, it was fine. It was fine. I didn't do anything too special. We just hung out, worked on the backyard a little bit.
I can understand it. I got a lot of mowing done. I got a lot of weed eating done. I edged. And I grilled. So I got all of it. I got the dad trifecta, I guess you could say. So it was nice. Good weather. Everything was cool. Have you been to this place, Laughlin Yard, in Memphis?
Yes, I know what Laughlin Yard is.
So I have not been out there during the day, and I haven't been out there when I was not drinking. But this I did have a beverage, but took my mother-in-law and our toddler and went out and played some cornhole and just kind of enjoyed the day, like the late afternoon on Sunday. And that place is awesome, man. Like, obviously, that's not an ad for them or anything, but yeah, I was highly impressed. So I'll have to get back out there and do that again. That place was very nice, very nice. We have some.
Yeah, that's not my cup of tea. Like these places that are like shacks thrown up with like really cool yards for you to hang out in. I have a yard. Like, I want to come to your restaurant. I want to come to your bar. It's hot around here. I want some AC. Like, I don't need your back. I don't need you to build me a backyard to play in. I don't live in a city in a condo.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. We were downtown for other stuff as well, but yeah, for what it was and for what we were doing, I thought it was nice. It wasn't too crazy outside. The weather was, upper 70s, somewhere around there. By the time we got there, it was cool. It was cool. I was impressed. Chris, we got SEC coaches meetings going on right now in Destin, Florida. Wanted to go ahead and bring up the first graphic here, and that is the SEC seating for Destin this year. This was the most anticipated per Pat Smith, who of course is was part of the Feinbaum show. Now he's part of Three Man Front on WJOX in Birmingham. But the coaches seating chart. In this, you can see that Eli Drinkwitz, Mike Leach, and Lane Kiffin are all next to each other. And then you've got Brian Kelly, Mark Stoops, and Kirby Smart next to each other. On the other corner, you've got Billy Napier, Bryan Harsin, Sam Pittman, and Nick Saban. On the opposite side of them, you got Shane Beamer, Josh Heupel, Clark Lee, and Chuck Dunlap, who is one of the admins or whatever for one of the higher-ups at the SEC. And then on the far table that has more seats, you have all of these SEC bigwigs, the execs, the officials, if you will. You got David Cutcliffe, Greg Sankey, etc. But those two, you got David Cutcliffe on one side, you got William King on the other, and then you got Jimbo Fisher right there in the middle of all these SEC officials. And, of course, when this was first leaked out, everybody thought, oh, man, they are obviously not trusting Jimbo to sit around some of these other coaches. They got to put him in between all the officials. But Herb Vincent, who is the associate commissioner for the SEC, he came out and said the chair of the coaches group sits with the SEC staff. The chair rotates, and this year it is Jimbo Fisher. Do you think that nobody has said anything about whether or not this was decided before Jimbo decided to come up with these with that press conference a week or so ago? Do you think maybe that had anything to do with this?
No, because if it did, they would not have made him chair.
I think you're probably right about that.
All of these decisions we want so bad for things to be like real drama, when really the people who run these things aren't that intelligent and they're not that creative.
I think you're onto something there. They're really not. I think
Jimbo's seat was set because he was the chair this year. Okay? That is not any – and we're trying to, he's just surrounded by his officials. who was the chair last year and where the fuck did he sit? All right? Because I bet it was around all the officials in the same spot and nobody gave a damn. All right? I'm certain they made sure that Nicholas was quite a bit away from them. But other than that, and that's just, you just do that. If you know you have two people that don't like each other, you don't put them next to one another.
This is true. Yeah, Nick
this
is
is
over
not
at
that
the
hard of a thing to do.
Nick Saban is over at the other end of the table, right next to Herb Vincent. So, yeah, it's they did a good job of keeping those two separated, which I doubt that they would have done anything to begin with. But yeah, everybody wants a good conspiracy. Everybody wants there to be more of a story, and the majority of the times, you're right, they are not that smart, they're not that creative. So they're just not worried about this at all. And the rest of the college football world wants it to be, right?
Yeah.
That is the way that it goes. We'll move on from there. I did want to bring up something that came up over the weekend. And this is interesting, I think, to me and to you, in that it shows us a little bit of what was going on at Florida with Dan Mullen. Billy Napier said over the weekend regarding NIL bidding wars that we don't operate that way at Florida. He said that Florida will not be in the middle of some of these NIL bidding wars. He said, I think there is some of that going on, but we don't operate that way. He noted that coaches need to look at the big picture when talking about NIL. He argued no two situations are identical, which is why they need to be studied one at a time. He said, I think NIL is a portion of the decision, right? I think a lot of times when you really dig into why the player is leaving where he's at, there are other factors. All these situations are case by case. You've got to evaluate each situation independent of all the others. But he did say college football is now a land with no laws. And when you really dive into this, he's telling the truth, obviously. He is talking about the fact that Florida is not just going to go out and pay just ridiculous amounts of money to be able to get the best of the best football players. Dan Mullen was not super interested in recruiting, but I think part of that was the fact that he didn't want to get involved with these kids that wanted money and whatnot. I don't think anything has changed at Florida, regardless of who the new coach is, right?
Completely agree with that. And what this means is Florida's just not going to be able to keep up recruiting-wise. So their fan base needs to set that expectation. And that's tough for them, but that is now the expectation. Yeah, we're not going to do this if other people are, and if you're going to villainize the kids for taking the money, then you're just wrong. Shame on you for doing that. But
no, he did walk it back at least a little bit, Chris. He said there's a lot of gray area here relative to representation, what I can say, what I can't, what the third party can do, what they can't do. He said, right now we're living in a land with no laws, if that makes sense, but I continue to believe as every day goes by, and the more that we are, quote, boots on the ground as we get out to know people, NIL is going to be a slam dunk for the Florida Gators. So he's saying that they're going to provide some NIL for players. Obviously, I think if you're in the SEC, you have to do that. But I think what he started this off with, in that they are not going to get in these bidding wars for players, I think basically he's saying that Florida is going to continue to operate business as usual. And in that situation, yeah, you're already a little bit behind when it comes to recruiting anyway because of what the former staffs have done. You're always going to be able to get good players at Florida. We're not saying anything like that. What we're saying is, can you keep up with the Georgias and Ohio States and Alabamas, right? Can you keep up with Texas A&M?
Are you wanting to compete at the top of the SEC, or are you happy with, being one of the best of the middle tier?
And that's a very interesting, idea. That's a big question that Florida fans are going to have to come up with. But that's what I'm talking
about when I'm saying you have to set expectations.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to. If you think that you're going to compete for the SEC, but you're not going to play the game to the maximum capacity. I'm not saying you can't one day, hit lightning in a bottle, have a hell of a recruiting class of guys that you just developed up that were all understarred and whatever. Then that can happen. But year in and year out, you're just not going to be in that conversation. You're going to have to wait for lightning in a bottle.
I think you're right. Let me go on and dive through these. Let me dive through these reads.
Hang on. You talked about what? See, so many of these guys are marrying NIL and transfer together because they're both allowed, right?
Yeah.
Because what he was saying in that situation is like, they're going after other kids. Like he made a comment about, you just read it off. You said a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to remember exactly the phrasing of it. But basically it was the concept that, it's the Wild Wild West out here.
Yeah, and you got to figure out why they're leaving where they were.
Why they're leaving. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He used the word leaving. The thing is kids can only leave one time. They can only leave once. All right? So once you have a transfer, they're yours for the duration unless you're willing to sit out.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
And NIL and transfer aren't the same thing. They're just not.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right here. It's definitely not the same. The only time that they would be able to transfer a second time is if they are a grad student. So once you graduate,
they have to graduate.
Yep. Yeah. Once you graduate, then you can do it again.
I guess most kids could do that. You're just not an NFL guy, or definitely not a 3-year NFL guy to do that.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely not a 3-year guy, and you would. But if you're transferring, there's obviously a reason for that, whether it be coach leaving or you're not getting playing time. If you're not getting playing time, I would imagine that means that you're probably not in a position to go early anyway.
We're going to disagree there. We're going to do this. So Joseph Burrow would like to have a word with you on that.
But I think Burrow developed at LSU.
Because you're not. No, he didn't. Joseph Burrow was Ohio Player of the Year. Like Mr. Ohio. He was the best athlete in the state. Urban Meyer had a philosophy of how he wanted to run an offense, and Joe didn't fit it. Okay? That was it. It wasn't Joe couldn't compete with those guys. Joe didn't run Urban's offense because Urban's offense wants a mobile quarterback. While Joe is mobile from a passing standpoint, Joe is a pocket passing quarterback.
Yes, absolutely. But you cannot tell me that there was not improvement from year one of Joe Burrow at LSU to his last year.
He got to – so now we're hashing something that doesn't make any sense because yes, there was improvement. When Joe got there, literally week after he got there, he didn't get spring practice with the team. He got there, and they started the season. He had no spring practice. He had barely any fall practice with these guys, and they all got hurled in at the exact same time. Also, all his receivers that had any talent at all were all true freshmen. So, yes,
true.
You're exactly correct on that. He had massive improvement because the day he started at LSU, season was started, and he didn't get any real practice in that offense.
And so what I'm saying –
second year in the offense, he took a massive leap forward.
Yes, absolutely. But
that has nothing to do with them developing him.
I'm saying that Joe Burrow went to LSU so that he could play because he was in a position where he was not going to play for Ohio State.
But you said it's because they're not good enough. And I'm telling you, kids can transfer, but they're not. There's a lot of reasons kids aren't playing.
Right. I'm not saying that they aren't good enough. I'm saying that they are not playing wherever they are, and they are probably not being looked at by the NFL at that point because they haven't shown it. Like, I don't think Joe Burrow would have been drafted had he left Ohio State having never started a game. You feel the same?
I didn't say that's not what you said, and that's not what we're talking about. You said they're transferring because they're not good enough to play, so therefore, if they're transferring, they're probably not the best. That's what you said.
If I said that, I definitely did not mean it that way, but I will.
That's why I corrected you.
I appreciate that. I misspoke.
That conversation.
If I said that, then I misspoke. And yes, it has to do situationally, which is kind of what Napier brought up here about every situation is different. You got to figure out why they're leaving. You got to figure out all these different things. But he does tie NIL into it, and that may be what we have seen based on this last transfer portal exodus. We're going to see how this works. As you and I have said multiple times, going forward, the market will correct itself. Like people will not continue to pay for players that don't produce, and you want to be able to get your money's worth. So I totally understand that.
Well, here's the thing. Hang on. If they've got that much money, they might keep paying for players that won't produce because they keep thinking the next kid will. Hang on, but that's fine. Toughen up, Buttercup. I'm sorry. If this other school is quote unquote overpaying for kids and you're mad that you're not getting them because you don't value them that much, they're getting the ones that they value. And you obviously don't value them the level that they do. That's it.
Yeah, this is true.
Answer.
This is true.
This idea that NIL is bad because these kids are making so much money is insane to me. We all are fine with them making $500 or $5,000, but nobody's okay with them making $500,000. And that's what bothers me, is the fact that that's hypocrisy right there. You just don't want them making more money than you make, and that's bullshit.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
So you want them to have a job, you just don't want them to have a good job.
And I don't know that it gets to be a better job than what they do playing at these SEC schools. With the amount of money that they generate, I mean,
this has now become, it's no longer about NIL, is it good or is it bad? This is 100% jealousy. That's all this is. When I was 18-year-old, I had a shit job that paid me $9 and change an hour, okay? And these guys are going to have a much better job making a lot more than that. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I have no problem with it.
I don't. But I want to call out the people that have a problem with it. If you told them, what if we pay these guys $5,000? Everybody would be okay with it. Everybody would be fine with it. Nobody would have a problem. It's the big numbers that bother them. Why? Well, they're going to piss it. Okay. Have you ever pissed money away in your life? Have you ever made a bad financial decision? Like, let them be kids, but they've still earned it. It's still okay for them to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. You think NFL player or NFL coaches have a problem with the players making as much as they do? This is way off topic.
Bill Belichick has said, yes. So Bill Belichick has made a comment in the past about whether he was going to keep a guy on the roster or not. And his agent was demanding, and this was, I'm sure it was a backup guy. I can't remember for the life of me who it was. But I remember the conversation. It was on one of those like behind the football scenes or whatever the NFL Network does. And he said, there's no way I'm paying this guy more than I make. He just doesn't do enough. Now I'm certain Bill might be the only coach that has ever said that or can say that. And it damn sure wasn't about a star player that ever touches the field. But it was somebody who was asking for more money that wasn't producing very much. And I remember hearing him say the words, there's no way I'm paying this guy more money than I make. and my first thought was, well, Bill, nobody's more valuable outside of Tom than you. But all these other guys make a lot more than you do. That's fine because they produce. This guy doesn't produce. I'm not paying him more than I make. His agent can go kick rocks. He can go somewhere else.
There you go. I love it.
And they just cut him. They don't play the game, the whole day. No, we're just going to cut you. That's fine.
If you're no longer worth it, then
that's right.
We'll just get rid of it.
If somebody else wants to pay you, that we live in a hard cap society in the NFL. I want the other people to waste their money on you. I want them to waste their salary cap money on you.
Yeah, basically.
I don't want to keep you for less. I want you to go there, and I want them to overpay you because every dollar they overpay you benefits us.
No. You are not wrong. Let's move on to another SEC coach. Let's talk about Bryan Harsin really quick. He is starting a new podcast. Bryan Harsin is starting the Huddle with Hars podcast. Now, I want to get into this one main question here, and I want you to tell me first. I've got a couple of answers myself, but him starting this, do you believe it is a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's a bad idea, like a really, really bad idea.
All right. I would love to hear your reasoning on this.
First off, I think Huddle with Horrors sounds terrible. It sounds like a shot at Waffle House. because we've got a huddle house situation going on here, which I'm sure it's not. It's a football thing, but that's not where my first brain went. Second, it sounds like you're saying horrors, like you're telling horror stories in your huddle, which is really weird. And I don't know why we're going to Bryan Harsin for this. And then the reason that this is a bad idea is because I don't think Bryan is like, if you're already famous and you're going to do a podcast, which is what most people are doing now, you got to have an audience. I don't think Bryan Harsin has been – like Jim Harbaugh has a massive audience. Many NFL fans love him. Many people that love college football loved him when he was at Stanford. And then now he's at Michigan. So, like, basically people at Ohio State will hate him. But he has a massive fan base. He has a massive following. He's been around. He's been relevant for a long time.
Yeah.
Who's listening to this?
Well, I'm going to go from the opposite side.
Half the Auburn fans don't want him there.
Well, so that's almost exactly why I'm going to go with it's a good idea, right? Because he has not been able. How's this? He started off on the wrong foot at Auburn anyway, right? This was a bad idea for him to not ingratiate himself into the Auburn fan base with the media, with everything else from the very get-go. He had opportunities to sit down. Like the SID was able to set up interviews and this and that, and he just turned them away. He didn't feel like that was in his wheelhouse, that he didn't want to talk to these people, and it hurt him. Like, I think it really hurt him in the process because I do think that he is good when he's on a mic. He's good when he's in front of people. Like, I've seen talks that he's given. I've seen all this kind of stuff. I think what you said, like, Auburn fans don't even like him. Auburn fans don't know him. And I think if you find a way to put yourself out there, and he's starting off by his first episode is with Eric Keesaw, who is the new offensive coordinator. He's using this to basically show off his staff, like introduce all of these new guys to the Auburn fan base. And you're going to have your Auburn diehards, but that's the majority of the people that are really going to be listening. But along with that, you can also, and this is my number 2 here, he, like, publicly was not able to control any of the narrative around what was going on with all those rumors and everything that came out back in, February, I guess, or early March. If you look, like, this is going to help show that he is not the issue at Auburn. Like, if they do fire him, it ain't because of him, it's because of what is going on inside of that program. So I think, in a way, this could be really, really good for him to get himself out there and let him control some of the narrative that goes on around his program and actually introduce himself a little bit better to some of the fan base, because as of right now, because he has not done a bunch of interviews, etc., that fan base doesn't really know him. And other fan bases that might open up, like Arizona State, etc., if he were to leave Auburn after this year, like, this could be a way to let other people get to know who he is, his coaching philosophy, etc. You kind of see where I'm coming from on that one?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. My biggest thing is I guess Auburn fans are the only audience. But, like, that's okay. And this isn't besmirching the Auburn fans, but, like, I don't know.
Like, I don't think he's trying to make money off of this. I don't think he's selling ads and all that kind of stuff. I think this is literally just, hey, we're just gonna sit down for an hour each week, and I'm gonna sit down with, like, a different position coach or a different assistant coach or just different people that he knows for 1 hour every week, and he actually get to control the conversation so that he can show who he is. Like, I think that's what the whole point of this is. Otherwise, why would you do it?
I mean, you're probably right. That's probably why he's doing it. I mean, that's probably the truth. I don't think it's a good idea. I only think bad things are going to come from this. But
now, you might be right. Like, he could become a wild card with an open mic.
But now, hang on now. But that is, you and I are very different people. Look how you you handle a mic and how I handle a mic. Like, look at how we both do this job. I say things all the time that afterwards I send you texts and say, man, I feel like such an asshole for saying that. Like, because I'm really bad at holding in my feelings. And when I get passionate about something, whether it's anger or excitement or whatever, like I just go. And I just vomit my feelings all over the place. And it's just one of those things where I tend to have a lot more regrets, while you are very controlled, very reserved, very in control of what you're saying and how you're saying it. And you're not going to make the mistakes I make, because we just do this job differently.
And my thought process is always maybe more logical than emotional. I think that might be the right way to say it. And I am curious what Harsin's is going to be. Like, I'm going to listen to this thing just to get an idea. But
hang on now. But here's the other part too, though. At some point in time, if it's not entertaining and he's boring, all he's going to do is hurt himself. Like now they're all going to hate him. Tens of people are going to listen to it, and they're going to all be Alabama fans, just getting fodder. That's it.
Just laughing, right? Just hee-hawing. Yeah, I mean, you might be right about that. I'm very curious what it's going to be like, whether or not he does a good job of introducing this coaching staff, etc.
All of these coaches think that they are likable. All of these coaches think that when they say things, they come out really well. And most of them don't. Most of them, it's bad. Like, it's really bad.
Are there any other SEC coaches that have a podcast? I don't think there are.
I don't know. I wish Mike Leach would get one, and I don't even want to talk about football.
I agree. I agree 1,000%. 1,000%. Let me do these reads right quick. WinningCuresEverything.com is the website. Go and check it out. Everything you need to know about us, you can find right there, including all the different segments from the shows. We are currently doing the college football previews leading into the 2022 season. Of course, today we're doing the AAC Part 2. But yeah, along with that, we've got a lot over there on the website, so go and check it out. Along with that, the podcast. You can subscribe anywhere that you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. If you can leave a 5-star review on whatever app you're using, please do that. 5-star written review certainly helps us out. And from time to time, we will read them out on the show. Same thing with the YouTube. Subscribe there and jump into the comments, jump into the chat. We love to hear from all of you guys. You've got great opinions, and it really kind of makes us think about certain things, what we're going to talk about, etc. So jump into the YouTube comments. You can always follow us on Twitter at GaryWCE, at Chris Giannini, Chris B. Giannini, and which is on your screen if you're watching the show. And then, of course, at Winning Cures is the other one. And you can find me most of the time over at BetUSTV.com. Chris, that takes us over to the NFL for just a little bit. And Aaron Donald. You remember right after the Super Bowl, there was this whole idea of, hey, like he might just hang it up. He might just be done. If they don't bring back Odell Beckham and they don't bring back Von Miller, then he may just retire. He may ride off into the sunset. And then it seemed that everything was good. He was going to come back. He told Sean McVay everything was cool. But now we have a story over at ESPN that says Aaron Donald, quote, at peace with career if no deal with Los Angeles Rams is reached. Basically, he has no more guaranteed money left in his contract. He told the I Am Athlete podcast that his return is contingent on getting a new deal. He said, it ain't about the money. It's a business at the end of the day. He said, that's what you got to see. For me, it's about winning. I don't want to play football if I can't win anyway. So I feel like if I got a real opportunity to win another Super Bowl, then it makes sense to play. But again, it is still a business. Give me your thoughts here. I'm curious because, like, I don't think he really knows what he wants to do.
Well, yeah, that sounds like the words from somebody who doesn't understand how words work. You can't say it's not about the money, it's business, because that's what business. You mean, which the phrase that he's looking for is it's not personal, it's business.
Yeah.
Because business is only about the money.
I mean, you're dead on. You're dead on.
That's like that's like me saying I'm not bald, I just have no hair. Like, they mean the same thing.
Like, yes, I agree with you.
You sound like an idiot, but he's the nicest guy in the world, and everybody loves him, and he's so amazing. And so nobody's going to criticize him by any stretch of the imagination.
You
looks
saw
like they're not going to get Odell. They didn't sign Von Miller. So it's all about winning. So if they can put another super team around me, then I'll come back and play. But you also have to pay me a lot of money to do that. I don't understand how any of this is working.
Yeah. You saw who he signed with, by the way, right? His new agency?
Is it Clutch?
No. Donda Sports. No. It's Kanye's new agency.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So Kanye signed Aaron Donald and signed Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. Very close to each other. So, yeah, I was a little shocked.
Kanye is really good with words. He should communicate to Mr. Donald how they work. And when he goes out there and says it's not about the money, as his agent, somebody needs to say, he's wrong. It's completely about the money. Please pay us a lot of money.
Yes, you're right.
And hang on. I need to see what his contract is. I'm done with this. Well, he has no more guaranteed money left. Yeah, but if he plays one game, he's going to make like $8 million. And if he plays like 7 games, he's going to make like $14 million. If he plays the whole season, he's probably going to make $20-something million. So I'm done with this. Oh, he didn't have any money. We're asking him to play for free here.
Let's see. I'm pulling up his spot track right now. Aaron Donald. Let's see. His contract details as of right now, heading into this season. His base salary is $9.25 million. His signing bonus for this year is $8 million. His roster bonus is $5 million.
17.
His restructured.
Right.
Let's see.
Pretty damn close, about $20 million. I think that's what, $21 million.
Let's see.
No,
here. So there's his restructure, and overall, here's his yearly cash. This is what he would make this year: $14.25 million. So he made $19.8 million last year. He'd make $14.25 this year, and then $19 million next year if he hits all the different things. So
yeah.
He wants to get.
This doesn't.
He wants to get big money. That's what he wants.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. But you can't want to play on a super team in a hard cap league and get big money. That's not how they work. That's not how super teams work. Yep. I know it took a super team to get you. You're a great player. I know it took a super team to get you a Super Bowl finally. I know it. If you want another one, you're going to have to sacrifice to join a super team, or you're going to have to get paid a lot of money, and you're probably not going to win another ring because it's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, even if they do pay him and some other free agents, like the chances are still relatively slim that he's going to get another one. Yes. I mean, everything had to fall into place perfectly for them to win it last year.
Perfectly for them to win it last year. So.
Let's talk for 2 seconds about USC football, which is not a common topic on the show, but USC posted on Memorial Day, "Today we remember and honor those that made the ultimate sacrifice to serve our country." They put hashtag Memorial Day 2022, they put hashtag Fight On, and they had a nice picture. And the picture had the USC helmet with an American flag flying behind it, and it had 4 fighter jets. And the Twitter comments immediately started taking off. And those comments said, "You mean Chinese J-10 fighter jets?" Like, they're called Chengdu J-10s. And the fighter jets that they put on this Memorial Day picture were Chinese fighter jets. Now, I understand that the people that run these social media accounts for college football teams are typically college students, right? My guess is they probably looked up fighter jets in Google and found these and photoshopped them onto a picture with the USC helmet. But I am curious, what do you think the thought process was here? Or was there one?
Yeah, it's just idiots. All I tell people that work for me, I have one request every day. Well, I have two. What request number one is just come in with a reasonable attitude, okay? The attitude of being reasonable, all right? Which means if somebody asks something of you that's not your normal job, but it's a reasonable, easy thing for you to do, don't fight against things that are reasonable. If you need something done, everybody's going to ask the same thing. We're just all going to be reasonable. The second thing is everything we do in life or in business is about the details. It's just about, if you didn't take 6 seconds to look up and realize our country, this is how self-absorbed we are, okay? They probably don't even realize that other countries have fighter jets. They probably just assume we're the only ones that have them, and they're going to throw rocks and sticks at them.
Yeah. Yeah,
because this is what kids think, right? They don't even know that other countries have them. Have you not seen the new Top Gun movie? Not only do other countries have fighter jets, most of their technology is better than ours.
Yes, very much so. Hey, by the way, before we jump into the AAC, thoughts on Top Gun? I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting to go see it, but
I've seen it twice now. I went and saw it yesterday.
Oh my God!
I saw it Thursday night. I went back and saw it yesterday. I'm going to tell you this. I have the same thing, very consistent, that I've told everybody. All right, this is every positive emotion that a man can have. I had while watching Top Gun. I can't speak for everybody else in the theater, but I know this. I laughed. I cried. I came. It was the best viewing experience I have ever witnessed in my life.
That's unbelievable.
I'm not saying it's the best movie ever made. I'm telling you that I sat in an IMAX theater, and it was the best viewing experience of watching a movie I've ever had in my life. And then 3 days later, I went back to that same IMAX and watched it again, and it was just as incredible and a little more emotional because some of the chaos that's happening didn't catch me off guard because I knew it was happening, and I was able to just kind of really get into it. It's really that good. I'm
definitely going to have to go see it this week. I'm going to have to go check it out.
So
Everybody I've talked to
this is another thing that I realized. This is something that I acknowledged. Okay, while watching this movie, or before the movie, this is before the movie. I have a real appreciation for Tom Cruise. Not that he needs me to have appreciation for him because he's one of the biggest superstars in all of Hollywood. Tom Cruise is still one of the only guys that's still making movies for dudes.
Yes.
Almost every movie that you go to in the movie theater has just packed full of just chick think and chick thought and chick stuff. And I like a lot of that, okay? I'm like the closest thing to a gay guy that most of my friends have. I'm not the most masculine man in the world, but I still really like a good dude movie. And Tom Cruise is about the only person that just all he makes are dude movies now. And they're great.
Yeah, I know the trailer for Mission Impossible just came out, and it is much of the same.
Yeah. Like
it's just straight action.
Much of the same. Very, very, yes, just an action pack. We took James Bond and we said, no, I'm upping the ante on James. Here we go.
Yes. So I'm excited.
So anyway,
I'm excited.
I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It's, they're not paying me. Of course, they don't need to. But it's really good. Though I'll tell you one criticism that I heard other people say, and my immediate reaction is you can go fuck yourself. It is really predictable. So like if you're watching a scene and you're like, oh, I kind of know where this is going. It always goes there. But it's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, this is the kind of movie that you want that.
Yes, I don't need to just be hit upside the head with something I'm not expecting here. I came to see this movie because I know exactly what I'm getting. I watched it when I was 8, and it changed my life.
Hey, was this better than the original?
Yeah. Yes. Oh God, yeah. Not even close. Not even a little bit. They're not even the same planet.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. I did enjoy the first one. I'm curious now. Very curious.
It's really good. It's really, really, really good.
Let's see. It sets Memorial Day records, so that's definitely good. I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes now. Let's see. The current reviews. Let's see. It looks like 97% from the audience. Is that right? I mean, that's
I need to
pretty
find this 3%. I need to find this 3% and give them a talking to.
Let's see. Here we go.
I just want to know what they're expecting.
Oh, no, never
That's
mind.
all. Anybody who didn't like this movie, I need to know what they were expecting.
96% from the certified reviewers. 99% from the audience. That's the most up to date.
Yeah.
Whew. 99% from the audience is pretty good. That is not bad. That is not bad at all.
Movie. I mean, it really is a great movie. So.
I can get on with that. Let's go ahead and do our football predictions here. Football previews. We are moving into the American Athletic Conference Part 2. We already discussed Cincinnati through SMU, the top 6 finishers last year. There are only 11 teams in the AAC currently. Today, we got Memphis, Navy, Tulane, South Florida, and Temple. And Chris, let me get your initial impressions before we move into the first team, which will be the Memphis Tigers here.
Of these 5 teams?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be great.
I tend to agree with you. I feel like we have a clear bottom 2, and then
Yep.
I wonder about the other 3, right? I wonder about the other 3. So I don't know that any of these can contend for a conference title this year. You agree?
I agree. I don't think either one of them are going to.
Let's move into the Memphis Tigers. That is the first one on the board here. And the Tigers last year went 6-6. The bowl game got canceled for them. Their post-game win expectancy showed 6.4 and 5.6, so they were right around where they were supposed to be. Probably should have beaten Temple, probably should have lost to Mississippi State, but regardless, you get there to 6-6 one way or the other. Returning production this year, number 58 in the country, 64%. You got a bunch returning on offense, partially because you bring back Seth Hennigan, the quarterback, who was a freshman last year and who really was not supposed to start. But, obviously,
that's right.
Grant Gunnell did not get to play. He was injured basically all year, and then he transferred out. He's now over at Arizona. The defense, however, only 57% returning. That's number 89 in the country. As far as their roster strength, number 63 overall in the country per CFB Winning Edge. Offense is only number 71. This is flip-flopped. Their defense roster strength is number 35 in the country. They have got some dudes on defense. Not super experienced, but they actually hit on some recruiting battles. They got some big-time transfers in. I'm curious about this team. Let's talk about the offense here. The new offensive coordinator is Tim Cramsey. He joins after 4 years as the OC at Marshall. Again, quarterback Seth Hennigan is back. He started basically all of 2021. He was number 48 in the country in QBR, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. You got to figure out who steps up as the receiving threats after they lose Calvin Austin III and the tight end Dykes. The new running back, Jay Ducker, new guy from Northern Illinois. That's good. He should pair well with sophomore Brandon Thomas. You got to hope that the offensive line improves a little bit. Their rushing success rate last year was number 83 in the country. Like, that is just not going to get it done with Memphis. Like, they have almost always been pretty good at running the football. They've had playmakers all over the place.
I was just about to say.
Yeah. That's it. They just don't have the playmakers.
That's one thing they've been able to do consistently through 3 different head coaches. They've been able to run the football.
And could not really get it done last year.
Now we're seeing a trend where they just couldn't do it at all.
The defense, you do have the safety Quindell Johnson. You've got defensive end Wardellis Duckworth. The defensive front 7 does lack proven players. The new defense coordinator, Matt Barnes, spent 3 years at Ohio State. He was the special teams coordinator and the safeties coach. he's a young guy. I don't know what to expect from him. But as I said, the roster strength is really good on the defense. Like, they've got talented players. There's just not a lot of experience. That's what I'm curious about. My keys to the season here, they started 3-0 last year, but they lost 6 of the last 8 down the stretch. They play like, this is what scares me about this is Memphis has been really good for a decade now at this point. And yes, what last season turned into is what the beginning of a program downturn looks like. Right?
Yes.
Like, if they can reel out of it and get back to, 8-4, even 7-5, just look like a competitive football team, then maybe they can avoid that. But this don't look like the same kind of offense that Memphis is used to. But maybe that's okay. Like, if you swap over and be a really good defensive team, then all right. But
okay. Well, I guess we see this a little different. I like the hire from the Marshall guy. Like, I liked what Marshall has done over the past. I think that's a big improvement of what they've had. So I think offensively they're going to be substantial. Well, hey, you can't be a lot worse than they were. I just think the offense is going to be a lot better if the defense is better. I think this team can be good.
Oh, I think it can too.
They can't win the conference, but I think they can be 7-5. I have them 6-6, but I really want to make them 7-5. I just don't have the stones. But I think they can.
I've got them at 7-5. So you've got them at 6-6.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So the way you were talking made it seem like there's just no way. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think this team's going to be good. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay. But I will tell you this:
like, they're not the top tier of the top 3. All right. Those 3 are separated from everybody else by a mile.
Oh, 100%. But this is certainly the kind of team that could also lose at some of these games that we expect them to win, and then win some.
The only reason I got them 6-6 is because this team right here could easily go into the Naval Academy and lay a big old egg, because that's what they do every time they go to Annapolis.
Oh, I've got them losing to Navy. Like, at my losses here, I've got Mississippi State, Navy, Tulane, and let's see, SMU. Oh, and Houston. But I've got them beating UCF. I've got them beating Tulsa. I've got them winning at East Carolina.
I don't have them beating UCF. Like, that's just not happening.
I've got that because it's the week after a bye week. They tend to play UCF pretty tough anyway. But again, anything could happen with this team.
Anything could happen. That's right. Anything could happen. I got them 6-6.
My keys
could be 7-5.
Oh yeah, they could be 7-5. They could go 5-7 if they do that.
Yeah.
Obviously that definitely not good. I've got on here. You got to hope that Hennigan can develop consistency, and you need the trenches to show up on both sides of the ball, because offensive line and defensive line certainly need to improve after last year. They lost some big time dudes to transfer out of there. They need playmakers to emerge on offense. Defense has talent and speed, but not much experience. It says toss on to it the fact that the new DC Barnes has never been a defensive coordinator, and who really knows what to expect from this defense. I did put on here, if Silverfield has another down year, do not be surprised if Memphis pulls the plug on this experiment. You kind of agree with that?
Yep. No, I don't kind of agree with it. I think if he's 5-7 or worse, he's gone.
I think you're right. They are really positioning themselves to join the Big 12. And if your football team is headed in a downward spiral, that ain't gonna work. So, yeah, you better get it done this year. This is a make or break year for Ryan Silverfield.
I think he was a bad hire to begin with, though.
I think it's always a bad idea when you hire a coach because the players want him.
Yep, because those players are going to leave.
Most of them are gone. Most of them are already gone.
Yeah, all the ones that wanted him aren't there anymore. Congratulations, you got what you wanted.
You have got that right. We will move on.
Could have set the program back substantially.
Exactly. The Navy Midshipmen. Now, last year was not good, and that comes off a not good 2020 season. But we will move on down to them. They went 4-8 last year. Ken Niamatalola. I will tell you this: their post-game win expectancy last year, 7.05 and 4.95. So basically, they should have been a 7-5 football team, and they went 4-8. Like, they did get the big win over Army at the end of the year, so that was good. but that got them to 4 wins. They had some pretty big losses. The linebacker, and I'm hoping I say this name right, Diego Fago. I hope that's right.
I got no idea.
He was the leader of that defense. Defense was pretty good last year. Number 74 in PPA per drive. Let's talk about the offense. Offense was just bad all around. They were number 105 in PPA per drive. They seemed to perform better in spots when they had the quarterback Ty Lavatai in there. He took over in the 4th game, and in that 4th game, they beat UCF. Now, most of his supporting cast are gone. Harris, AC, all those guys. Maybe new starters can provide more upside, even without the experience, because they're number 103 in returning production this year. You can never look at their roster strength, and it's the same with any of the academies, right?
That's right.
But compared to Army and Air Force, etc., Navy is number 131 on roster strength, on offense and defense. Like, they are dead last in the entire country as far as talent goes. Now, again, you can't really look at it that way. They do have some big players coming back. Isaac Ruos, the fullback, safety John Marshall, defensive end Jacob Busick, and then, of course, the quarterback I mentioned, Lavatai, excuse me. I'm worried about the offense because I don't know. Like, it's not like people have really figured out the triple, right? You see Army and Air Force have success with it every year. But Navy, for whatever reason, was really bad. As far as the defense, they've been overperforming, excuse me, under the new defense coordinator, Newberry, for like 3 years now. Like, they always do this. I don't know if number 74 in defensive PPA per drive is going to cut it if your offense isn't scoring. They really need the offense to hold on to the ball and score points this year. Because they're number 112 in returning production on defense. This team, you remember they went 11-2 in 2019?
But that was just a long time ago, man.
Well, they have since gone 7-15 since that season.
Yeah. That feels like it was a whole lifetime ago.
If you look at what their offense was, and again, they have not changed. They had Malcolm Perry at quarterback in 2019. They have not had him, and they hadn't been able to find anything close to that. And they haven't really changed what they're doing, but they were number 18 in offensive SP+. That's an efficiency rating from Bill Conley. They were number 18 in 2019. They were number 115 last year. In 2 years, that's how big of a difference it is between that quarterback and what they had last year. Keys for the season, I've got let Lavatai loose. Hope the new faces perform better than all the experience that was actually lost. I said on defense, watch for the safety, John Marshall. He could be a stud in the secondary. Develop the linebackers. You've only got 1 senior. And the defensive line, you've got 3 juniors and 2 seniors. But you don't have a ton of returning experience with those guys. So while they've been around the program, they hadn't played a lot. So you need them to step up. There's no reason to assume that they'll remember how to score points here, and if the defense doesn't make a great stride, it could be a really long year. And Chris, I got them at 4-8. Like, I want them to do better, but I just don't. I can't find it.
No, 4-8, and that was, maybe they can beat Army twice.
I've got them losing to Army. My 4 wins here, I've got Temple, Tulsa, Memphis, and Delaware. But I could see them beating anybody, and I could see them losing to anybody. Like, that's what's crazy about it.
I can't see them beating anybody. That's crazy. They can't beat anybody.
I mean, they were right there with Cincinnati last year. They were right there with Houston. Like, they were in some ball games. Again, their post-game win expectancy last year had them as a 7-5 team. But they went 4-8. Like, they won 3 conference games last year. Like, this year, you got Army and you got Air Force. You got Notre Dame. Like, I don't think you're going to win a lot of these non-conference games. I mean, it's just rough. Just rough. At SMU, at Cincy, at UCF, at Air Force, at East Carolina. I mean, it's tough. It's just a tough schedule. So, I think 4-8 is just about right. You tend to agree with that, right?
Yep, that's what I got them at, 4-8.
You think they'll fire Niumatalolo if he doesn't make a bowl game this year?
Nope.
I don't think so
Who's
either.
going to get to coach that?
I mean, that's a good point. I don't know.
I mean, he went 10-2 one year. What are you going to do with that? Like, really? Nobody's done that in 20 years, 30 years. Like,
that's true. And now you got to deal with.
You got to live on that. You got to live on that the rest of your life.
I do wonder if it's a good idea for them to be in a conference at this point. Like Army feasts on playing Colgate and stuff like that. Like I do wonder. I don't know. We'll see. We'll move on to these last three here. The Tulane Green Wave. And, of course, we are all big fans of Willie Fritz here on this program. Tulane last year, that was about as bad of a season as you could possibly get last year. 2-10. However, the post-game win expectancy says that they should have been closer to 4-8. They were 4.33, 7.67. Their projected SP Plus record this year is 6-6. They were 6-6 against the spread last year, but they did go 2-10. Now, a big sign for them improving this year is they are number 21 in returning production. They bring back 75% of their production from last year. They are number 4 on offense, number 72 on defense. And when you look at their roster strength, they're actually more talented on the defensive side of the ball. Number 49 there, number 63 on offense, number 60 overall. They did lose nose tackle Jeffrey Johnson to transfer. They lost cornerback Jalen Monroe. They lost defensive end JoJo Dorcius. And they lose linebacker Kevin Henry. But they do keep Michael Pratt, the quarterback. They keep running back Tyjae Spears. They keep wide receiver Shea Wyatt. Center Sincere Haynesworth, who looks like he could be an NFL guy. And then linebacker Dorian Williams. Let's talk about the offense here. They've got a new OC, Jim Zavoda. Zavoda, I hope I say that right. He's the former head coach of D2 Central Missouri. They do lose Chip Long. I do wonder if Chip Long just didn't know how to deal with so many young guys because they were really, really young last year. But he moves over to take over the offense at Georgia Tech. A big part of them returning, number 4, returning production on offense, Michael Pratt coming back. They get 8 of their 9 receivers back, and they get every running back back. That's going to help. It was a youth movement last year, and a 1-year stopgap for an OC. That's not a great combination. Like I think they're more talented than what they showed last year. On top of that, I think that this team, the culture you could see was pretty good because you didn't have like some kind of mass exodus of transfers. Like it was not. Normally, if a team is used to winning and then they go 2-10, you'll see a bunch of guys transfer out. They didn't have that. Like I think Willie Fritz has a really good culture down there. You tend to agree with that?
Yes, Willie Fritz is a outstanding coach, and I think we are going to see the greatest mark of improvement from year 1 to year 2 or whatever, last year to this year, than we've seen in college football in a long time.
I would agree with you, except that Baylor went from 2 wins, like they went from 2-7 in 2020 to 12-2 last year. So
okay, but there was a couple of years between there. I'm talking that.
Well, that was from Baylor 2020 to Baylor 2021. But I do agree with your sentiment that yes, in the AAC you don't normally see a jump. I think they are going to be pretty good. Their 2 best players on defense last year were both freshmen. The defensive end Hodges had 15 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. The DB Jaden Kennedy, who was basically a utility knife. Like he could play safety, he could play corner, like just whatever. There's more fresh faces coming in. The linebacking core just stacked at the top with Dorian Williams and Nick Anderson. You need those 2 to be healthy because you don't have a ton of depth, or at least not experienced depth behind them. Chris, they went 0-5 in close games last year, in like one-possession games. Just like we talk about teams are going to regress back to the means when they go like 4-1 in one-score games, the same is going to be said for teams that went 0-5. Like, you're not going to go 0-5 in one-score games again. Like, I just don't believe that.
Yep.
I mean, you look at this, like, Fitz is just a better coach than 2-10. This looks like a rebound year. I've got him at 7-5. I could certainly see him doing better than that. Now, obviously, last year showed they could be worse, but I think 7-5 is a pretty good benchmark.
7-5. I got them 7-5.
I like it. You know, it's crazy. We don't talk about these before we actually get on here to record. Like, we don't match notes or anything, and yet we still come up with pretty close records here. Like at Memphis, you were 6-6, I was 7-5, but we both had Navy 4-8. We both got Tulane 7-5. I'm curious about these last two. Very, very curious.
Real similar on these two.
All right. South Florida. Let me write my time down. The South Florida Bulls. And boy, Jeff Scott just has not had it easy, has he? Since he left Clemson, he thought South Florida was going to be one of those kind of spots where he could come in and take over. Charlie Strong won 10 games there. Willie Taggart won 11 games there. But what Charlie Strong did to that roster really hurt it going forward. This team, PPA margin last year was number 117. Their net points per drive was number 119. They were number 127 in total plays per game, number 116 in turnover margin, number 125 in penalties per game. Like, they were bad all across the board. They're number 9 in returning production, so maybe that's something to look at. Aside from that, I mean, they went 2-10 last year. Post-game win expectancy said the same thing, 2.29 and 9.71. Their projected SP Plus record is 4-8, but I couldn't get them there. When I look at this, like, Jerry Bohannon comes in. He was the starting quarterback at Baylor last year. I would imagine he comes in to take the starting job from Timmy McClain. Like, Timmy McClain was good in spots last year, but most of it was with his legs. I think Bohannon's the steadier hand. I think there's less mistakes here. Like, it just makes a little more sense to me that he would be your starter. You do have a ton of returning experience on offense. They're number 9 in that regard. On defense, they're number 26, which is still pretty good. That's 74%. On offense was 84%. The roster strength, pretty good. Number 73 in the country. Like, that's okay. They do have a new DC, Bob Shoop, who was the DC at Mississippi State under Joe Moorhead, had the number 1 defense in 2018. He was just an analyst at Miami last year, trying to pick and choose what his next spot would be. I mean, I'm not going to dive into a whole lot of this. They've got 16 new transfers. 13 of them are P5 transfers. It looks like a talent upgrade, but can they gel quickly? Like, this is a talented roster, but at the same time, it's been a talented roster. So you gotta figure out what in the world can Jeff Scott do differently. And I don't know that there's an answer for this. Like, I could see him anywhere from 1-11 to like 4-8, but I don't know that it gets better than that. It's a pretty brutal schedule. And then when you look at 3 of the first 4 games, you got BYU, Howard, at Florida, and at Louisville. Like, I think they're going to start 1-3, even if they showed up to be pretty good. So I've got them at 2-10. What have you got this bunch?
2-10. They're not good. They're going to struggle. It's not going to go well for them. I don't know that they have the answer there right now, and I really couldn't figure out what to do to get them back to where they used to be. The South Florida Bulls used to be awesome. They used to be fun. They used to be incredible to watch. Like, they were entertaining. They played good football. They could compete with, like, the bigger boys of the G5. They were one of the big boys of the G5 and could give scares to the P5 schools that would come play them. They're just so far from that right now. Nobody in the country is afraid of them.
No. I mean, this is not a good football team. This is not a good football team. So we both have them at 2-10. And I got to wonder, like, how long do you give Jeff Scott there? But I don't know that it's necessarily his fault. I think the college football landscape is changing, and if you were already in a rut, it is much more difficult to get yourself out of that rut.
But hang on now, no, we disagree a little bit there. It's easier to pull yourself out now because of the transfer portal. You are in the back door of Florida, baby. You're in Tampa. You got a ton of money around there. There's no reason you should not be hanging with the Memphises of the world. There's just no reason for you to not be tit for tat with the other schools like that. You're bigger than them, you have more money than them, and you have more talent locally than they do. There's just no excuse for it.
You might be onto something there. You might be onto something.
Because you could go in and for a bunch of kids, and you got local money. Like, there's just no reason you can't be good fast. I'm just not hearing that, man. He's just not the guy. And as soon, my opinion. As soon as you know you got the wrong guy, you flush it.
Yeah, and that might be what they have to do if they go 2-10 again. That might be the death knell. That might be what that is. Let's do this last one here, and we are on the Temple Owls. Now, Stan Drayton is the new head coach of Temple. He was the running backs coach at Texas last year. Went 3-9 last season under Rod Carey, and they just did not hit on the right hire at all when they brought him over from Northern Illinois. Their post-game win expectancy, like they won 3 games last year, but their post-game win expectancy said 2.09 and 9.91. So really, it was a 2-10 team. They got that win over Memphis, but that was a little weird anyway. They did go 2-10 against the spread last year, so they didn't even outperform those expectations. Their projected SP Plus record is 4-8. Now, they're number 71 in returning production. Their roster strength, which has normally been a big thing for them, especially based in Philadelphia, their roster strength is number 118 in the country right now. Like, they have lost a lot of talent off that roster, and Rod Carey could not find those diamonds in the rough. He could not figure out.
Hang on. I don't understand is roster strength returning talent or just roster strength as the guys that are there where they rank in talent?
The guys that are there right now, and it's a combination. College football winning edge basically combines experience and recruiting ratings, right? So you take your recruiting rankings, and then you add experience along with that. So if you got a youth movement with a bunch of 2 and 3 stars, your roster strength is not going to be very good. That's basically what their roster strength is right now. Number 118 overall. It's number 119 on offense, number 111 on defense. So it's not, it don't look good. I'll say that. Now, let's talk about the offense here. They do have a new OC. Obviously, this is a new coaching staff. Danny Langsford. He was the quarterback's coach at Colorado the last 2 years. They did bring in a transfer quarterback, and that is Quincy Patterson II. DeJuan Mathis, you remember the kid from Georgia that started, I think, 1 game in 2020 for Georgia? He was their starter last year and was not very good. Quincy Patterson II comes in from North Dakota State, but he didn't play last year. So I don't know what that necessarily means. The wide receiver core is not great. Even with several seniors, none of them have really played. The offensive line is weak at best. I mean, it's just not – this is not great. Anything that they do this year should be an improvement over last year. You got to find an identity. You got to stop turning the ball over. They were number 111 in turnover margin. Their offensive PPA per drive last year was number 121. Now, on defense, DJ Elliott is the new defensive coordinator, and he was last seen as the defensive coordinator at Kansas under Les Miles. Now, the defensive cupboard isn't empty there. I mean, there's potential at every position, even if it's not experienced. Like, the secondary was decent enough last year, number 72 in passing success rate. But, man, they were number 109 in rushing success rate allowed, and that just ain't going to work in this conference. Man, when I look at, like, after Rule left, this was viewed as, like, a really good G5 job. Collins did good things. Then they missed on Manny, and then Rod Carey, like, really hurt the process. They whiffed on that one. The roster is still depleted. Even if there's, like, stud players here and there, it's still going to take a big rebuilding job to fix this. And anything that they do this year, I think, is going to be better than number 126 in net points per drive. Like, they're going to need a lot of upsets this year. I don't see it. I think they're going to take most of this year to focus on recruiting, and then we'll see from there. I've got them beating UMass. I got them beating Lafayette, and that's it. I got 2-10.
2-10. That's what I got too. I don't know how good they're going to be in the future either. So we'll see. We'll see what this coaching staff does, but they just don't have a lot of talent. They're not very good.
Now, you were not wrong there. It's just rough to look at. Like, Temple used to be so good. South Florida used to be so good. And man, they are in a world of hurt right now. Just a world of hurt.
I
Just
don't
frustrating.
know what happened. So
It is what it is. You get the wrong coach. We've seen it in the SEC. Like Tennessee went through years of bad coaching hires. Like in the G5.
that's it.
Yeah.
What kills you is, you're right. It's not just a bad coaching hire. It's when you compound bad coach after bad coach after bad coach, and now you're just a program that nobody respects, nobody wants to go. The glory days are so far removed from kids that you're trying to recruit to come play football there.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how quickly the cycle runs because, I mean, it was just 2018 that they were playing for, a conference title, I believe, in Temple. So but think about it now. This year's recruiting class, this year's group of 2023 seniors coming in, okay? In 2018, they were barely in middle school. Yeah. That's what's crazy. It moves so fast. You make one wrong hire, and it can set you back a long time.
And if you make two, I think you can come back from one. You make two, man. If you don't hit gold on the third one, and that third one could be a good coach, but he's just shoveling himself out of such a big hole that you might not get the results you want.
I mean, we're seeing that at Florida State right now, right?
Yep, I was just about to say.
Jimbo was not a good coach his last couple of years in Tallahassee.
We've got different opinions on that.
Oh, I know. I do agree with you on the way that things went as far as boosters and whatnot.
That is a burning down the bridge before I run off the bridge.
But at the same time, it did hurt the program, right? And then you brought in another coach that didn't know how to pull it out. And
that's right.
And once you did that, now Mike Norvell, who I think we agree is a pretty good coach, he's having a difficult time pulling them back out of that. So, and Temple can end up with the same thing if they don't hit it with Stan Drayton. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I don't see it happening this year. So you got 2-10 as well, right?
I got 2-10 as well. All right, buddy.
Be good, my friend. I will holler at you. We'll do Thursday, and then you're taking vacation, right?
I'm taking a week off.
I can understand it. All right, let's get out of here. Is there anything else that we need to hit on?
That's it, brother.
All right, let me let you go, and I will wrap this thing up. All right, that is Winning Cures Everything. We appreciate all of you guys for joining the show. We certainly appreciate you for sharing it out, telling your friends, leaving a nice 5-star review, all that good stuff. So, with that said, we're going to dive out of here. Again, thank you. Share the show. Tell your friends. Subscribe if you have not already subscribed. And take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And hopefully all of your tickets cash this week. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show.